In the summer of 2025, China is gripped by an unrelenting monsoon. Rain falls in torrents, turning streets into rivers and fields into lakes. From the neon-lit avenues of Shanghai to the quiet villages of Hunan, the nation is drowning. At the heart of this crisis stands the Three Gorges Dam, a colossus of concrete and ambition once hailed as the pinnacle of China's engineering prowess. Now it looms as a symbol of hubris, its reservoir swelling dangerously under the weight of endless rain. In a small apartment in Yichang, just downstream from the dam, Zhang Wei, a 32-year-old factory worker, stares out his window. The Yangtze River, usually a distant shimmer, now laps at the edge of his neighborhood. "It's never been this bad," he mutters to his wife Mei, who clutches their 6-year-old daughter Ling tightly. The news blares warnings of flash floods, but Zhang's phone buzzes with rumors from WeChat groups. The dam is cracking. They're hiding the truth. Mei dismisses it as panic, but Zhang's unease grows. "If that dam breaks, we're finished," he says, his voice barely a whisper. Across the country in Beijing's Fangshan district, Li Na, a 45-year-old street vendor, battles rising waters that have turned her market stall into a floating wreck. The Yongding River has overflowed, submerging roads and trapping residents in their homes. "I lost everything." In an hour, Li Na cries, her hands trembling as she salvages soggy vegetables. Her teenage son Kai films the devastation on his phone, uploading it to Douyin with a caption, "Where is the government? We're drowning." The video goes viral, amassing millions of views before censors scrub it from the internet. In rural Hunan, Old Chen, a 70-year-old farmer, stands on a hill overlooking his submerged rice fields. The Xiang River has swallowed his crops, his livelihood, and his hope. 50 years I've worked this land," he says to his grandson Hao, who has returned from college in Changsha. "Now it's all gone. What's left for us?" Hao, once optimistic about his future as an engineer, now wonders if his degree is worthless. In a country battered by nature and neglect, the dam's shadow. The Three Gorges Dam, stretching 2.3 kilometers across the Yangtze, was meant to tame floods, generate power, and showcase China's might. But in July 2025, it becomes a ticking time bomb. The reservoir's water level climbs to 170 meters, dangerously close to its 175-meter limit. Engineers at the dam's control center work around the clock, their faces etched with fear. "We can't hold this much water," whispers engineer Liu, a veteran of the dam's operations. "If we don't release it, the dam could fail. If we do, we'll flood millions downstream." In Beijing, the Central Committee convenes in secrecy. Premier Li Qiang faces a grim choice: protect the dam and sacrifice downstream cities, or risk the dam's collapse, which could kill millions and shatter the Chinese Communist Party's CCP credibility. An advisor warns the people are already angry. If the dam fails, it's not just a disaster, it's the end of our legitimacy. The decision is made: open the floodgates. On July 10, 2025, the dam releases 45,000 cubic meters of water per second, an unprecedented deluge that roars down the Yangtze, obliterating everything in its path. In Yichang, Zhang Wei's worst fears come true. The floodgates release sends a wall of water crashing through his neighborhood. He grabs Ling and Mei, rushing to the roof as their apartment fills with muddy water. "Hold on," he shouts, tying a rope around Ling's waist to keep her from slipping. Below, cars float like toys, and the screams of neighbors pierce the night. Zhang's phone, now useless without signal, still holds a message from a friend. They knew this would happen. They chose to save the dam. Not us. In Wuhan, 300 kilometers downstream, the flood's impact is apocalyptic. The city's low-lying areas are submerged, and hospitals overflow with the injured. Nurse Chen Mei works tirelessly, her hands shaking as she treats victims pulled from the water. "We're out of beds, out of medicine," she says, tears streaming down her face. "People are dying, and no one's coming to help." A patient, an elderly man, grabs her arm and whispers, "The government lied to us. They said the dam would protect us. The people's fury. As the floods rage, the absence of leadership fuels outrage. President Xi Jinping and senior officials remain in Beijing issuing vague statements about resilience and unity. No high-ranking leader visits the disaster zones, a stark departure from past crises when officials staged public displays of concern. In Xi'an, Hubei, a factory owner named Wang Tao surveys his ruined workshop. They tell us to stay strong, but where are they? He demands. My business is gone, my workers are homeless and they're silent. Social media becomes a battleground. In Chongqing, a young woman named Zhou Lan posts a video of her flooded apartment, her voice breaking. We've been stuck here for 3 days. No food, no water, no help. Is this what the Great Rejuvenation looks like? Her video spreads like wildfire before being deleted. Netizens using VPNs to bypass censorship share stories of loss and betrayal. A hashtag 3Gorges, lie trends briefly before being suppressed. In rural Sichuan, a group of villagers gathers in a makeshift shelter. Among them is Yang Min, a former teacher who lost her home to the floods. We were told the dam would stop floods. Not cause them, she says bitterly. Her neighbor, Old Liu, nods. They filled the reservoir to make money from electricity, not to protect us. Now we pay the price. Yang Min pulls out a notebook, scribbling a manifesto. We demand the truth about the dam. We demand justice for the lives lost. Her words shared online inspire others to speak out, but the risk of arrest looms large. The floods expose not just physical destruction, but systemic failures. In Henan, where northern floods contrast with southern droughts, farmers face a double blow. My crops are either drowned or burned, says Farmer Guo, his face weathered by despair. The government says the economy is growing, but who's growing? Not us. Small businesses like Ms. Zhao's herbal tea shop in Changsha are buried in mud, their owners left with nothing. I borrowed money to start this shop, Zhao says. Now I owe debts I can't repay. The dam's secrets. The 3 Gorges. Dam's vulnerabilities are no longer a secret. Engineers leak reports of structural shifts exacerbated by the reservoir's weight and increased seismic activity. Dr. Huang, a retired hydrologist who worked on the dam's planning, speaks out on an overseas podcast. The dam was a political project, not a scientific one. They ignored warnings about earthquakes and landslides. Now the cracks are showing literally. His words send shockwaves through the diaspora, but in China they're silenced. In Yiwu, a trading hub, hit hard by floods, merchant Li Wei discovers a darker truth. His cousin, a low-level official, reveals that emergency discharges were made at night to avoid scrutiny. They didn't warn us because they didn't want panic, Li Wei says, his voice shaking with anger. They let us drown to save their image. His cousin warns him to stay quiet, but Li Wei posts the truth online, knowing it could cost him everything. The economic toll is staggering. Flooded factories, halt production supply chains collapse, and millions lose their livelihoods. In Nanjing, a logistics worker named Sun Ji watches his company lay off half its staff. We can't ship goods with the roads gone, he says. I have a family to feed, but no job. The agricultural sector is decimated with millions of acres underwater or parched. Food prices soar and urban residents like Jiang Wei struggle to afford basics. Rice costs 3 times what it did last year. May complains. How are we supposed to live? A nation on the brink. By late July 2025, the floods have claimed thousands of lives, though the official count remains suspiciously low. In Beijing's Miyun district, a volunteer rescuer named Xu Fang pulls survivors from rooftops. The government says no one died here, but I've seen bodies, she whispers to a friend. Her words, recorded secretly, spread online, fueling distrust. In Chongqing, Zhou Lan organizes a small protest, demanding aid and accountability. We're not invisible, she shouts, holding a sign that reads, Truth over lies. Police disperse the crowd, but the seeds of unrest are sown. The 3 Gorges. Dam still standing but battered, becomes a symbol of the CCP's failures. An anonymous engineer leaks a chilling warning. if a major quake hits the dam, could collapse, wiping out cities from Yichang to Shanghai. The government dismisses it as rumor, but seismic monitors report tremors along the Yangtze. In Wuhan, residents like Chen Mei begin stockpiling supplies, fearing the worst. "If the dam goes, we're all gone," she says, hugging her son. The crisis exposes deep fissures in Chinese society. Young people like Hao, the engineering student, feel betrayed by a system that promised opportunity but delivered despair. "I studied to build a better China," he says. "Now I'm building nothing." Middle-aged workers like Wang Tao face a bleak future, their savings wiped out. "I worked 20 years for this," he asks, staring at his ruined factory. Even the elderly like old Chen feel abandoned. "We trusted them to protect us," he says. "They failed us all." The reckoning. As the floodwaters recede, the anger remains. In Yichang, Zhang Wei joins a group of neighbors to demand compensation for their lost homes. "We deserve answers," he says, his voice hoarse from shouting. Mei, holding Ling's hand, adds, "We lost everything because they chose the dam over us." Their protest is small, but it's one of many sprouting across the country. In Beijing, Li Na and Kai distribute flyers calling for transparency. "We can't stay silent anymore," Kai says, his eyes burning with resolve. Online, the hashtag 3GorgesLie hashtag resurfaces, shared by millions before censors can react. Exiled scholars and activists amplify the call for accountability. "The CCP built the dam to prove its power," writes a US-based analyst. "Its failure will prove its weakness." In China, Yang Min's manifesto spreads through encrypted channels, inspiring a new generation to question the regime. The government responds with crackdowns, arresting bloggers and protesters. But the damage is done. The floods have washed away not just homes, but the CCP's veneer of invincibility. In a quiet moment, Zhang Wei looks at his daughter Ling and vows to keep fighting. For her, he says, "I'll demand the truth no matter the cost." As China rebuilds, the scars remain. The Three Gorges Dam still stands, but its shadow looms larger than ever, a reminder of ambition unchecked, promises broken, and a nation on the edge. The floodwaters may have receded, but the waves of change are just beginning to rise.